The night was pitch black, with only the faint glimmer of the moon piercing through the dense canopy of Blackwood Forest. Emma stumbled through the underbrush, her heart pounding in her chest. Blood oozed from a deep gash on her forehead, and the constant stings from unseen insects made her skin crawl. The forest was alive with the sounds of night creatures, whispers, hisses, and the rustling of leaves, each sound amplifying her terror. "Where am I? How did I get here?" Emma whispered to herself, her voice trembling. She could barely recall the events that led her to this cursed place. All she remembered was waking up alone in the middle of the forest, surrounded by darkness and the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. "Emma, my dear, come to me." The voice echoed through the trees. It was her mother's voice, soft and soothing. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't heard her mother's voice since her death 3 years ago. "Mom," Emma called out, her voice a mix of hope and fear. She followed the voice, her steps quickening despite the pain. As she pushed through the thick foliage, she saw a figure standing in a small clearing. It was her mother, or at least it looked like her. "Come closer, my sweet Emma," the figure said, beckoning her with an eerie smile. But as Emma approached, the figure's form began to shift and distort. Her mother's warm eyes turned into hollow, black pits, and her smile twisted into a grotesque grin. "Welcome to your nightmare," the apparition hissed. Emma froze in terror, unable to move. The figure lunged at her, and she turned to run, but the ground beneath her gave way. She tumbled into a deep pit filled with writhing flames, the heat searing her skin. The fire roared with unnatural intensity, its colors shifting from red to blue, and it seemed to burn with a sentient fury. From the flames, her mother's ghostly figure emerged once more, laughing maniacally. "You cannot escape me, Emma. This is your destiny," she said, her voice echoing with a sinister resonance. Long, sharp claws extended from her hands, and she reached out to grab Emma. Emma screamed and bolted upright, finding herself lying in her own bed, drenched in sweat. Her father burst into the room, alarmed by her cries. "Emma, what happened? Are you all right?" he asked, concern etched on his face. I saw her, Dad. Mom was there, in the forest. She tried to kill me," Emma stammered, her voice shaking. Her father's face darkened. He had heard these stories before, ever since Emma's mother had died in a tragic accident while trying to save her. Desperate to rid Emma of these nightmares, her father sought the help of a renowned occultist. The occultist, a man with a reputation for dealing with malevolent spirits, arrived at their home with an air of grave seriousness. He instructed Emma and her father to gather all of Emma's and her mother's belongings and burn them in a ritual fire. As the flames consumed the items, the occultist began to chant ancient incantations. Emma felt a strange sensation, as if something was being pulled from her body. She collapsed to the ground, her spirit momentarily leaving her body. She watched in horror as her own form writhed and twisted, her soul caught in a battle with her mother's vengeful spirit. The occultist's chants grew louder, more intense, and finally, with a blinding flash of light, Emma's spirit was forced back into her body. She gasped for breath, her eyes snapping open. "It is done," the occultist said, his voice weary. "But you must leave this place. The spirit of your mother is too strong here." Emma and her father quickly packed their belongings and fled to the train station.